Welcome to Empower Her Radio, the space for powerhouse women ready to step into their next level of abundance, purpose, and personal freedom. I'm Dr. Corey Wynn, a high performance coach, doctor of physical therapy, philanthropist, and business consultant. I help ambitious women align with their highest calling, expand their wealth and impact, and create a life that feels as good as it looks. If you're a high achieving woman who's built success yet finds yourself craving more alignment, more purpose, more ease, you're in the right place. Here, we bridge the gap between ambition and fulfillment. Through transformative conversations and proven strategies, you'll gain the courage to step into the fullest expression of you. Build a powerhouse business that aligns with your expertise and divine gifts, and lead your life, both personally and professionally, with unshakable confidence, worthiness, and compassion. This is about expansion, legacy, and owning your power unapologetically. You already have everything inside of you to create a life of unlimited possibility. It's time to unlock it. Welcome to your next level. Let's dive in. All right. Welcome back to Empower Her Radio, the space where we uplift, inspire, and equip high-achieving women step into their fullest potential. Today, we're talking about something that every ambitious woman faces: how to balance health, family, and business success without burnout. Our guest today, Esther Avant, has spent 20 years in the health and wellness industry, guiding countless individuals toward achieving their goals, both in health and beyond. She's a personal trainer, nutrition coach, speaker, author, and entrepreneur. Through her coaching and programs, she helps women take control of their well-being and use the same strategies that work for weight loss to level up their lives and careers. But Esther isn't just a coach. She's also a mom, an entrepreneur, and a Navy wife, which means she understands firsthand what it's like to juggle multiple responsibilities, move frequently, including internationally, and still prioritize health, relationships, and business growth. She is here to show us that it is possible to balance it all, and that taking care of yourself actually helps in every area of life. Esther, welcome to the show. I hope you're loving this episode. I just want to pop in and share something that could completely transform the way you think about building your business, aligning your sales with your mission and vision, and scaling your impact both personally and professionally. I want to share a free training, The 4 Quadrants of Quantum Sales Growth, from the She Sells team, for entrepreneurs, sales professionals, and anyone building an empire who wants to sell in full alignment, attract high-level clients with ease, and create exponential growth without pressure or burnout. This isn't about outdated sales tactics. It's about energetically aligning with your next level of success and stepping into a business that feels abundant, effortless, and scalable. If you're ready to uplevel your sales strategy, expand your reach, and quantum leap your results, grab your free copy now at www.elisearcher.com/CoreyWin. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Thank you so much. And thank you for such a nice, thorough introduction.
You're welcome. So tell us, how did you balance all of that, moving so many times and all the changes in life?
Yeah. So I'm sure I'm not the first person to say this, but I feel like balance is, kind of a misnomer, that
Uh-huh.
it's not that everything is perfectly aligned at all times.
Yeah.
There's a book I read a long time ago. It's called Pick Three. And the premise was that, we all have a handful of things that are important to us, but in any given day, we've got to pick 3 that are the top priorities for that day.
Oh, I love that. I need to read that
Yeah.
book.
And I thought, what's interesting is I didn't even finish the book. It was one of those sort of like, you get the gist right away and it just kind of keeps hammering it over and over again, where I was like, I don't
Uh-huh.
need more of this, but I do like the concept.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's a great way to look at it is there an area, or are there a couple areas of my life that are regularly finding themselves on the back burner?
Mhm.
And for me, the health stuff comes more easily. It's what I've done for so long that it's just kind of ingrained in who I am.
Mhm.
So I didn't struggle so much with my health in combination with parenting and building a business and
Mhm.
moving, but
Uh-huh.
my relationship is what struggled the most, where I had a really hard time creating the boundaries and kind of shutting off my work brain
Uh-huh.
to prioritize time with my husband. So it's whatever the area that's kind of lagging in your life is, we've all got them. And it's nothing to be ashamed about or embarrassed by. And I think that's really important. Is part of what makes it hard to make a change is that we apply this negative filter to it. Oh, I'm already failing at X, Y, and Z. Why would I add another thing to my plate just so I
Right.
can fail at that too?
Right. That
So
for so many years, I've heard so many women say that.
yeah, so I feel like just normalizing. There's nothing wrong with you if you're having a hard time
Right.
keeping all the balls in the air.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And also recognizing that you just inherently are deserving of
Mhm.
taking time for yourself,
Mhm.
being a healthy person, and also that doing those things is going to then benefit you in your marriage, in motherhood, in your career.
Mhm.
So it's much less what am I taking away from those other areas and more this is an investment in myself and in everybody who is depending on me.
Yes.
So anyway, all that to say, trial and error is how I have figured it out
Uh-huh.
for myself. And what I've found is that there's there's three kind of keys that I think are really important for creating a better, I call it work-life health balance for
Mhm.
yourself. And I'm happy to go into kind of what those three pieces are, or if you have another
Yeah.
another.
No,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah. This is perfect.
All right. So I think the first important piece is identifying what I call the big rock habits. This is in an effort to combat the overwhelm and the information overload that a lot of us experience, where anytime you turn on your TV or you open up social media, you're getting bombarded with health stuff,
Uh-huh.
much of it conflicting, and it ends up just so complicated and overwhelming that we end up feeling like I shouldn't do anything until I'm sure that what I'm going to do is the right thing or until I have.
Sorry, no, I'm so glad that you're talking about this because as I was preparing for this episode, I was looking at your social media and your website and whatnot. And then the next probably 10 posts, at least on Instagram, were conflicting nutritional information for women in their 30s and 40s. Do this, don't do that, this supplement, not. And I thought, this is so perfect that you're discussing this. So that was my aside. Please,
That is
please
a
keep
perfect
on.
example. That's exactly what it's like. So not only do we feel like if I don't know the right thing, I shouldn't do anything, we also feel like if I don't really have a chunk of, time, energy, resources to devote to this, I shouldn't start now. I should wait until the kids are older, work calms down, I get this promotion, etc. And then, time is just getting away from us. So identifying your big rocks are the antidote to that.
Mhm.
You look at just like you would in your career or with your kids where you say okay what are the things that matter the most here,
Mhm.
are my kids fed, are they clean, that sort of
Right,
thing, right?
right.
And you're just like, well, the house is a disaster, that's okay, that's not a top priority. With work you have sort of your key deliverables or the key metrics that your company is looking at, and those are what you need to make sure you're putting your energy into. The same goes with health. There's plenty of stuff you could focus on that's going to be a tiny drop in the bucket.
Mhm.
Or you could say, what if I just focus the energy and time that I do have on a handful of things that generate the majority of the results and make the biggest difference? So we're
Mhm.
talking about prioritizing your protein, your fiber, getting up and taking walks throughout the day, getting in your strength training, things that when done consistently really move the needle significantly as far as your health, and if you have a weight loss goal, that too is concerned. So that I think is piece number one. When you stop trying to do it all and you realize,
Uh-huh.
okay, I can just hone in on these few things, it feels a lot more doable in the midst of all the other demands.
Well, and I don't know if you found this, but I found this in my personal life. I watched my mom try to do it all my entire life. And I don't have any brothers or sisters, so I can't imagine what it would have been like with siblings. And it's taken a while for me to learn that it's okay to say no, to set boundaries, and that I shouldn't be able to do it all. That that's no longer the expectation. Do you find that with your clients at all?
1,000%. The number of times I've seen somebody post in like a working mom Facebook group saying, how are you doing it all? I'm drowning. And overwhelmingly, everybody's like, I'm not doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing either they feel the exact same way and they're just like, I have so much pressure and I feel like a failure, or they've kind of accepted I can't and I don't need to do it all.
Mm-hmm.
And they've figured out what matters to me most, like what are my core values, and how do I make sure that my the way I use my time is reflective of those things. So, for me, this is kind of a silly example, but I like cleaning my house very low on the priorities list. I don't want to live in squalor. I don't want to be embarrassed when people come over. I'm going to wipe down the countertops and stuff, but one of the best investments I've made is a robot vacuum because it allows me to not spend my precious time vacuuming all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that is time that can directly go to I this morning I was in the garage working out, my robot was vacuuming. I
I
can be
love that.
spending time with my family while the floors are getting clean. So
Well, and
there,
narrowing it down to what requires your expertise.
yes.
That's huge.
That's an excellent point. Yeah, you don't need to be doing everything individually. But yes, I see so many women just I'd say societal expectations, but largely self-imposed expectations of I need to be the perfect mom, the perfect housewife, the perfect, boss at work, all of
Uh-huh.
these things. Oh, and also I'm supposed to be, a size 4 and I need to curl my hair every day and just like all of these things that when you actually stop and ask yourself, how much of that do I care about? It
Uh-huh.
it narrows things down. So I think it's so helpful to just hear people say, like from the outside, it might look like I am doing it all, but I'm not. I'm just doing what's important to me.
Yeah. When you think about your life or maybe the questions that come up most with your clients, what are kind of the non-negotiables specifically with health when you're trying to help your clients just start that one thing? You mentioned protein, fiber, getting up and moving around. What would be like the first step with a new client of like, okay, let's start here?
Yeah, great question. So I think the most important thing is that you do kind of your own personal lifestyle assessment. You kind of figure out your baseline, right? Because there very seldom do I see somebody who's like doing none of the health things. Very
Mm-hmm.
mostly, we're health aware. We're generally operating under the threshold of consistency where we see the results that we want, but
Uh-huh.
it's not like we're total, you know, disasters.
Right.
So every single one of us has things that we're already doing well that we can just kind of set and forget. So maybe you've got your Apple Watch and it reminds me, I forgot to put my Fitbit on today. Maybe you've got your Apple Watch and on any given day, you're getting 8,000 plus steps. Great. Don't devote any of your resources to trying to get more than that. It's
Mm-hmm.
not a top priority. If you do, great, but not what you need to be devoting your energy to. For some people, eating fruits and vegetables has always been kind of a cornerstone of their diet. So,
Mm-hmm.
all right, let that be good enough, and then figure out where are my personal gaps. What I see for a lot of women is strength training
Mm-hmm.
and an emphasis on protein.
Mm-hmm.
We've become fearful of fat, we've become fearful of
Uh-huh.
carbs,
Uh-huh.
and protein is one of the things, an easy thing that we can do that improves our health in a number of different ways and goes hand in hand with strength training. So maybe you're already doing those things. If you're not, those are two easy places to start. And I think you bring up a really important point, which is that you want to kind of if you feel like you don't have a lot of momentum going, you want to start with a small goal that feels really doable, even if it's not the most impactful, because you're just
Mhm.
trying to get some momentum going. You're trying to
Right.
build some confidence of like I said I was going to do this and I did it. That feels good. I feel capable of more. So
Right.
maybe the thought of starting strength training, you're just like, oh, I'd need equipment or a gym membership. I don't know what to do, or I don't have time to cook, like whatever might be coming up to you. Okay, could we start a one that a lot of people could benefit from is just drinking more water. Could you
Mhm.
start the day with 16 ounces of water before you have your coffee? That's a great start. Just
Mhm.
being somebody who says, this is what I'm going to do and does it helps you become a more confident and a proactive person. Maybe it's sleep. That's another really important one that a lot of people overlook and has such a cascade effect on
Mhm.
all of the other healthy things we're trying to do that we tend to wear our lack of sleep as kind of a badge of honor.
Yes,
But
especially as entrepreneurs.
yes, and I totally get it, especially when you're also a mom and often work is getting done super early in the morning, super late in the day. You're like all of those normal business hours. I'm wearing a different hat. So this is after everybody's in bed. I'm starting at 8 p.m. and I'm working for hours, but everything, you are going to be more productive in a shorter amount of time if you're well rested. If you struggle with being super hungry, not being well satiated, with having a lot of cravings, sleeping better is going to help with that. If you
Mhm.
have a hard time waking up when your alarm goes off and therefore you don't get that downtime to yourself before the kids wake you up and now you're rushing out the door and everything just feels scrambled, getting to bed earlier will help with that. So that can be an easy one if you just feel like I'm not really ready to change a lot about like my day to day or how I'm doing things. Honing in on your sleep can have a huge benefit.
Well, and just waking up rested, even if you get no more hours per se, but true quality sleep, waking up and feeling like, oh my gosh, I just slept for 10 hours. It may have only been 6, but the productivity and the time with your family and the relationships, all of that revolves around quality of sleep and energy. So I'm so glad that you mentioned that. What, when you think about schedule and habits, what do you feel like has been kind of the most successful for you building a business with being a wife and a military spouse and all the things that you have going on?
Yeah, great question. I think one of the most helpful things is being intentional about my calendar and
Mhm.
not becoming kind of a slave to it,
Mhm.
where it's easy, especially when you're building a business and either when you're trying to get something off the ground or when you've kind of just started to see some success and you're just like, okay, the ball's rolling. I gotta do all these things. I gotta do them right now. It's easy for the business to monopolize all of your time and to just be saying yes to everything. Can I do this meeting now? Yes, sure. Can I do it here? Yes, sure.
Okay.
And next thing you know, you're doing stuff at like really inopportune times. Your schedule is all over the place. And you go into each week kind of treating it as though like, I will try to find time to carve out lunch, or at some point during the day, I'll try to get out for a walk. And it's just this sort of like haphazard, if it happens, great, but I'm not being intentional to make sure that it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes as no surprise to anyone that life rarely cooperates and just kind of allows you to do
Right.
those things. You need to decide this is as important to me as my family, as my business, and therefore I need to be intentional about the time that I am carving out for it. So, just a not exactly a health example, but for the whole first semester of the school year, I was telling myself that I was going to volunteer in my son's classroom. That's part of why I run my own business is so that I
Right.
have the schedule freedom to go spend an hour at the school during the week. And yet, week after week, the times that the teacher told me would be the most helpful, I'm booking up with meetings. And finally, over the Christmas break, I was like, you know what? If you don't want this to keep happening, block out that time right now for the entire rest of the school year. And
Mm-hmm.
now that's what the time is reserved for. And I've gone every week since then.
That's
And we can take the same approach with our healthy habits, whether that's the tendency that many of us have to work through lunch and then snack a whole bunch and then not be hungry for dinner, but then be hungry after dinner and like the whole day kind of
oh
devolves.
yeah.
You just kind of reverse engineer. None of the rest of that stuff would happen if I sat down and had an actual lunch. So maybe it's only 15 minutes, but you block it out Monday through Friday on your schedule, or every day it's a little bit different, but you do it in advance and you know this is going to happen. Same thing with taking a walk, same thing with working out. Do I want to do that before, after, in the middle of the workday? Will it be at a gym, taking a class, at my house? Not leaving it to chance. If it's important to you, you got to be purposeful. And I think sometimes a lot of people resist doing that because we have this, again, kind of the shoulds. I shouldn't need that. I should just be able to take a walk whenever I want. Wait, okay, but you're not. So if you want something to change, how will you make sure that it does? And that's one of the things that's been the most helpful for me is, baseball practices go on the schedule. Nothing's going
Mm-hmm.
to get double booked. We have
Right.
a babysitter this weekend, that's blocked off, making sure that I'm not letting my business spill over into every other area of my life, but really doing what I need to put the boundaries in to make sure that I'm thriving in all of the areas of my life.
Well, and I so love everything that you said there because taking control of your schedule allows you to have so much more time freedom. And for years, I've heard from clients, I don't want my schedule to run my life. I'm not going to do that. And we continue to let life happen to us. And I think it takes some pretty honest reflection too from clients and people we work with of, am I going to continue to be the victim and allow my life to happen to me? Or am I going to put things in place so that I am in control of what happens after today? And sometimes that's a really hard pill to swallow. I can even find myself kind of in that space sometimes and have to think back, okay, hold on. What can I do in this moment to make this more smooth, down the line? So I'm so glad that you talked about scheduling, because really in the end you end up with so much more time.
That's exactly it. It's so like kind of counterintuitive,
Mm-hmm.
but it's really true. And I was noticing it yesterday. My son was out playing with friends, my husband wasn't home yet. So I kind of felt like I should still be working. But I was like 15 minutes in, and I realized all I was doing was kind of like clicking between tabs. I wasn't getting anything done. And I've gotten so much better at recognizing that and being like, all right, go read your book, do something you're actually going to enjoy. Otherwise, you're going to squander this time, feel bad that you didn't get anything productive done, and you didn't get any downtime. And
Yes.
you're so right. Like we do just let life happen to us, and it's almost like we're in the passenger seat. We're just kind of along for the ride and like hoping for the best. But we're we're in the driver's seat. You're the CEO of your business. You're the CEO of your life, and it's not like a sign of weakness to put some parameters in place to help yourself. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, I think it's a sign of intelligence that, all right, well, I know when left to my own devices, I want this, like, I want my schedule totally open so I can do what I want when I want. But the reality of it is, when I have that, how does it go? Do I
Mm-hmm.
do all the things that I wanted to? Do
Right.
I feel good about how
Yes.
things got done? No. So I think it's about finding that kind of sweet spot for yourself where it's like not every second of your day is accounted for. It's not, regimented, you must be relaxing from this time to this time, but
Right.
you're making sure that the things that matter most are accounted for, and then the other stuff can sort of fill in from there.
Well, and just feeling aligned, because like you said, it may not always be the same every day, or it may be different in certain seasons. But I think something that we talk about a lot is just aligning with what feels good to you, with what you can take on at this moment. And you touched on this a little bit all earlier, but a lot of women in our generation also still have this like all or nothing mentality, that if I am going to start working out, I'm going to go to the gym for 2 hours every day and, work out like, with all of the possible energy that there is. And you're 2 weeks in and you quit because it's just too much. So from a recovering perfectionist myself, how do you help moms kind of get out of this it has to be perfect all or nothing kind of attitude or mindset?
That is my favorite question because I can very much relate to that, as can pretty much every woman I've worked with over the last 20 years. It's so
Mm-hmm.
common. And again, I think it's almost like an identity that sometimes we take pride in. Oh, I'm just an all or nothing person. I'm just a perfectionist. And
Mm-hmm.
like with all labels, there are times that that can serve you and benefit you, but there are times that it can be holding you back and keeping you treading water, spinning your wheels, one of those two.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um, I think that the solution to that is honing two skills that I have come to see on opposite ends of the spectrum: self-compassion and personal responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you're in an all phase,
Uh-huh.
what you need more of is self-compassion. So
Mm-hmm.
that when you inevitably fall short of perfection, you don't start berating yourself about what a miserable failure you are, who's always doomed to
Right.
be a disaster. You're able to say the same thing you would say to a friend or your daughter or whomever. It's okay. You didn't massively mess anything up. You're human, you're imperfect. This is fine.
Mm-hmm.
And gives you kind of that grace and that compassion that you deserve. On the flip side, when you're in sort of that nothing phase, is when you're kind of wallowing in the victim mode that you talked about. Woe is me, everything is so hard, everybody has it easier. If only I was making enough money to hire an assistant. If only,
Uh-huh.
just like, oh, if only my kids were older, all the things that we just use to kind of rationalize why nothing can change. That's when you need more of the personal responsibility to say, no one is coming along to save me.
Mhm.
These are my circumstances, which, by the way, I have largely chosen for myself. I chose to be an entrepreneur. I chose to
Uh-huh.
have children. I chose to get married.
Right.
And all of those things are positives in my life.
Right.
And also, if I'm not happy with how certain things are going, it's on me to figure out how to change them. And I think learning how to turn up and down the compassion and the responsibility based on kind of where your head's at any given time is the solution. When you're in extremes, those will help you work towards a middle where you're accepting of your imperfections and your slip ups and, oh, I missed a day, and also you learn from them. So you're not continuing to beat your head against the wall and wonder why nothing's changing. You're able to learn and grow and improve and no longer see yourself as an all or nothing person.
Uh-huh. Where do you feel like the mom guilt comes into factor with all of this perfectionism and recovering perfectionism?
I think it starts with having these really high expectations for everything that we do. I
Mhm.
want to be, this picture perfect mom, whatever that means to you, whether it's volunteering at your kid's school or always being at their sports practices or always being home with a treat when they walk in the door. We expect that we're able to kind of give all of ourselves to all of the things at the same time. So not only are you doing all of that as a mother, but also you are this badass businesswoman who
Yes.
is professional and showing up and doing the networking and landing the contract and whatever the thing in your business is. We have such high expectations that I think kind of that's where the guilt comes from, is if you are always aiming for 100% and you're inevitably falling short of that, you start to it starts to feel bad. You start to be always looking at your shortcomings and the things that you're not doing well. And then that leads to the guilt of, oh, why can't I be better at this? You look at your neighbors, you look at social media, you're like, well, they have it all together. She never misses a game. Her business is making twice as much. And it's just like this comparison. And then, feeling like, well, if it's possible for somebody else and I'm not doing it, then I'm less than and I should be better, different, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's where a lot of it comes from. And just actually kind of reflecting on what are my expectations and are they reasonable is a
Yes.
really good place to start. And then also practicing noticing and naming your emotions. We
Mhm.
tend to just like anything that feels negative, we just want to avoid. So we do all of our, avoidance behaviors. We eat excessively to avoid feeling sad, or we throw ourselves into our work, or we shop online, or whatever the thing is, instead of just kind of sitting with, yeah, you know what, right now I'm having kind of those twangs of guilt that I know other moms went to the Valentine's Day party at school and I couldn't because I had this work thing. Yeah, that doesn't feel good. I feel like I'm falling short as a mom.
Mhm.
Just acknowledging that helps you then process it and say like, okay, well, is that true? Kind of the
Mhm.
litmus test of like, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? You
Yes.
start to look for the evidence to the contrary.
Mhm.
No, it's not kind to be telling myself that I'm a bad mom because I didn't go to the party. It's certainly not helpful. It's just making me feel bad, and it's detracting from my focus at work. It's going to, cloud my interactions with my kids when they get home. And is it true? No, it's not true. I went to, the Christmas party. I did that. We spent this time together. We had a really great weekend. We read together every night. You start challenging yourself to kind of, all right, you think that? Prove it. And you
Right.
realize it's or disprove it. um, and I think that's how you start unpacking the mom guilt.
Well, and you talk about reflecting too, figuring out, taking away social media, taking away all the shoulds, taking away how you grew up, and leaving yourself with, what do I really care about? Because it may not bring you joy to be in the Valentine's classroom for the Valentine's party, and that's okay. And I remember the first mom that told me, I hate like the morning routine. I hate it. My husband takes over. I love it. I do afternoon and evening. And I was like, you can do that? And this was years ago. And I mean, I happen to like the morning routine, but like whatever it is, you talk so much about prioritizing what's important to you. and then building from there. And I love that so much.
That's such a good point. I used to have mom guilt about not, when my son was younger, not liking the like toddler kind of imaginative playtime where we're like
Mhm.
on the floor and we're, having a tea party or something like that. And it was so, I heard another mom say something similar of like, that's just not what kind of mom I am. I do plenty of other things with my kids to foster a good relationship. That doesn't need to be part of it. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah, I'm just going to lean into the things that I enjoy and stop putting so much pressure on forcing something that I don't.
Yes. Oh, I love that so much. We've talked about, scheduling and prioritizing, and I wanted to talk a little bit about meal planning and see if you had any hacks, low maintenance hacks, ideas of things to just have on hand that you typically recommend for your clients, because that's probably one of the other things that I've heard in my career as a physical therapist, now just working with women in general. I don't have time for that. We just eat whatever we have. Moving on. What do you tell them?
That is such a good question. And if there's a lot of misunderstood things when it comes to health, meal planning is near the top, I think, though. It has turned into this just behemoth of a thing that it's not. So, first of all, stop going on Pinterest to find recipes. You
Yes.
do not need a chalkboard in your kitchen where you're writing out the menu for the week in this like perfect cursive writing and it's this pork loin with pan roasted Brussels sprouts and a side of this. Like, come on, you are not going to do that. No wonder the whole experience of meal planning and prepping sucks because that is not realistic for most of our lives. And if you are
Oh,
the
come on, you
the
don't have a
minority,
personal chef? Come on.
right? If you're the minority who enjoys it and has time for it and wants to do it that way, more power to you. But most of us don't have the desire or the interest or any of that. So the best place to start with meal planning is just to do a quick kind of look back at your days and your week and say, when do we tend to struggle the most with food? Is it that we wake up, and we shoot out like bats out of hell and we have to try to get to school on time and everything is a rush and I don't eat anything until, 11 o'clock. I've had 3 cups of coffee and I realize I haven't eaten anything. And then it's like, well, I got a meeting in 5 minutes. So it's just whatever I can get my hands on. Then let's start with breakfast. If,
Insert
like we
95% of the women out there.
Yes. Like we talked about earlier, if you have a tendency to work through lunch, which has been my habit for a long time, start there. If dinners are this sort of like chaotic, haphazard thing where you and your husband look at each other and you're like, it's 6 o'clock, like, what are we doing for dinner? And oh, by the way, this kid needs to be picked up from this sports practice. And it's chaotic, start there, right? So you do not need to start everywhere. And maybe you're just like, yes, that describes all of my meals. Just pick one. Just start with one meal first.
All of our listeners are like, I'm not alone. Thank you.
Yes, no, it's so relatable. So just pick like the one that makes the most sense to start with. And then instead of trying to match, this person that you see on Instagram, just think realistically, what do I like to eat? Or if in a perfect world, what would be my ideal breakfast? And how close is it possible for me to get to that during the work week? So it's not about completely overhauling your meals. If you're somebody who likes to start with something sweet in the mornings, okay, great. We can start with something sweet and we can add to it so that you're getting some protein and fiber to make yourself feel satiated. If you don't have much of an appetite, but you know that, come lunch, you're ravenous and can't stop yourself from eating everything in sight, maybe you do a smoothie or an oatmeal, something that kind of goes down pretty easily. So work with yourself and instead of trying to force, this like template into your life and then think in terms of how can I kind of do that at least a few days in advance. Maybe it's just if I'm measuring out ingredients for this morning smoothie, I'm going to do the next few days so that I'm just pulling a bag out of the fridge and or the freezer and I dump it in. Is it I'm going to make, egg muffins or breakfast sliders, just something that like I can heat and eat. Same thing with, with your other meals. If you have a tendency to be rushing from thing to thing during the afternoon, you are not going to stop and make yourself a nice, balanced, nutritious lunch.
Mhm.
Could you though do that when you're cleaning up dinner or when you're making breakfast or at the beginning of the end of the weekend so that it's just ready to go? And instead of, oh, I wonder what we have, and now I eat, 800 calories of snacks, I pull out my lunch, I pack it like I'm going somewhere, and I eat that. Again, with
Promised me
dinners.
for so many years. I'm gonna eat all the cheese and crackers because I haven't eaten since breakfast and all of my dinner because
Yes.
I didn't stop for lunch today.
Yes, yes. And that's exactly the sort of thing is like kind of working back to the root issue is so helpful. It's not that you have no self-control at the end of the day, it's that everything is leading up to you being starving by the
Right.
by the tail end. Um, and then same thing with dinners, like really being realistic. If your kids are living on like cheese and pasta variations, okay. How can we start with that and then enhance it so that it meets your needs as well? Can we add a lean protein to it? Could we switch to a higher fiber, higher protein pasta option? Can we sneak some veggies in, or can I just batch roast a bunch of veggies and add them to my plate or some bagged salads? Just thinking really kind of practically. You're not going to suddenly find yourself with an extra hour and a half to make all of these things.
Uh-huh.
So start really small. Buy convenience items where it makes sense and it's affordable. Do a little bit of batch prepping, and being strategic, I think, helps. So, for example, on Sundays, I often grill because I know I can make a big batch of food. I'll have leftover chicken, I'll have leftover vegetables that then I can use for the first few meals during the week. And if I do say a Sunday and like a Wednesday where I know I'm going to have leftovers, that can carry me the next couple days. So it doesn't need to be this like really structured regimented thing. It's just more so looking ahead and figuring out when could we use the most help? When do I want to throw stuff in the crock pot because I'm going to be busy? And when do I have a little extra time that I could do something, kind of more of an undertaking?
Oh, I love that so much. I want to be super respectful of your time and I want you to talk about your book. So tell us all about To Your Health, a lifestyle of health, happiness, and confidence, because I feel like that encompasses what all women that I know want. So I wanted to make sure we had time to talk about that specifically.
Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, it has really been a labor of love, and it's everything that I've learned in 20 years of helping women lose weight and improve their health. And I kind of have a hard time talking about it because I feel like it will it is geared toward weight loss and it will help women lose weight. And also, I know how much more powerful it is than kind of just that.
Mhm.
Not only will you be healthier, but you will be happier and more confident. And that is going to spill over into other areas of your life. When you're taking care of yourself and when you're doing it in a way that makes you feel good and is sustainable, other people around you notice and benefit. So it really dives into how to develop the consistency, the commitment, the confidence that you need to succeed at your health and weight loss or any goal. And then it breaks down a lot of what we've talked about today, the big rocks of exercise and nutrition. So, specifically, like what are kind of the benchmarks I'm shooting for? How do I start doing these things? We talk about the importance of developing a support system, asking people for what you need from them instead of feeling, like a martyr of I have to do all of this myself.
Okay.
You don't, and you're going to be better off if you get support people on board, coaches, trainers, therapists, your spouse, your coworkers, your kids, your friends who can make this faster, easier, and more fun. A big chunk of the book is everybody, always wants to know the best foods for fat loss, the best workouts for my bat wings. It covers that, but so much of the book is on what I think of as like the beneath the surface stuff
Mhm.
that if you have done diets before, which we all have, and they haven't stuck, let's solve for those things. Why is it hard to be consistent, especially when you have help and you've made it simple? Why is it still hard? And let's figure out those things. That gets into the compassion and the responsibility. And then the whole third part of the book is the actual kind of implementation of this framework to not just have it be it's really more of like a roadmap. It's not just to read it and stick it back on the shelf, but more so it's a guide to take you step by step through all of this. So one of the things that we've talked about at length today is what I refer to as life admin, where you're actually sitting down and you're looking at what does this week have in store and how am I going to make sure that I am doing my big rocks. We talk about the importance of setting useful goals, checking in with ourselves. Just it truly is everything that a woman needs to lose weight for the last time and do it in a way that helps her be a better, more successful, more confident person.
I love all of that so much. I have found over the years, and I'm sure you have too, in all the work that you've done, that women don't feel worthy of putting themselves first. They don't feel worthy of taking care of themselves first. Does your book talk at all about that?
Absolutely. That is one of the things that I have noticed as well is over and over again, a client will come to me just again, wanting what should I do for breakfast and what are high protein snacks? And as we start doing the work, as you know, with the transformative work you do too, you get a lot deeper than that. And you realize that's kind of the seed that all of the struggle is coming from, is that throughout the course of my life, the way I've seen the women in my life be treated, the way I saw them talk about their bodies, what I've seen society tell women is, good and bad. We develop these limiting beliefs that I'm not worthy or deserving, it's not available to me, I shouldn't have it. And a lot of it is unraveling that, realizing that's not true. I don't want to continue to be held back by that anymore. And the realization that you do have the power to overcome that.
So beautiful. How can we get in touch with you? I want all of the audience to know how to follow you, what your website is, where they can get your book, everything.
Thank you. I try to keep it really simple. All of my social media is Esther Avant. My website is esteravant.com. My podcast and book are both called To Your Health. Podcast is everywhere you do podcasts, and the book is also available everywhere you do books. Easiest is Amazon. You'll get it in 2 days.
Awesome. Oh, I love this so much. I could talk to you all day. I know everything that we talked about today was such benefit to our audience and the moms out there listening. I really want to just kind of invite the audience. If today's conversation resonated with you, I challenge you to take one small step, any of the steps that Esther mentioned today, whether it's drinking more water, walking for 10 minutes, or setting boundaries to protect your time. Your health is your power source. Invest in it and chat with Esther because she has a lot more to offer than the time we have for today. So thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. As we close out today's episode, I want to leave you with this. Your next level is already within you. If you're feeling that pull for more clarity, more alignment, and more courage to step fully into who you're meant to be, this is your invitation to take the next step. Whether you're an entrepreneur ready to scale or a woman standing at the edge of something bigger, the path forward starts with trusting your desires, owning your worth, and leading with your inner knowing. This is exactly what I offer. Private VIP coaching, and where I guide women inside the 10K Club and 50K Club through consulting with She Sells and Superhuman Selling to help you gain clarity, step into aligned action, and build a life and business that reflects your highest vision. If you're ready to explore what's next, let's have a conversation. Book a free call now at www.corywin.com/free call. I can't wait to connect with you. Talk soon.